Good afternoon, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. This update comes to you from England and the saga around the Southport attack and the scandal around it. Most of the issue with what happened in Southport back in the summer, a lot of you guys watching from around the world are already familiar with what happened, is not actually just about the actual attack on innocent children, but it was about what happened afterwards. The way the government handled it, the mainstream media, the whole of the establishment in general, that created the actual scandal after the attack. Now, we do have some concerning updates about what's happening as we speak in Southport following everything that's happened since the summer and the reaction that we got, the angry reaction from the local people and people across the country, when it led to protests and riots and everything else that happened. You would think that the government's approach, and by government I'm talking about the state in general, from the local authorities, the police, council, national government, all of them, would actually be what they said. We learn from mistakes, right? They usually say that. But no, because the establishment in general, the cultural institutions, schools, especially schools, continue to double down. What's happening in Southport right now is disgusting. This news comes to you from David Atherton, journalist at the European Conservative outlets. Now, this is a letter that was received from a local resident in Southport. Now, this person has a child who attends the same school that one of the girls went. Well, I think two of the girls went. A few other of the victims who are luckily still alive have been raised in this area. I'm going to go through the letter and going to give you my reaction. Then, of course, get your reaction live during the show. Not sure if this is of interest, but given the state of things at the moment, I would like to share my experience, as my child still currently attends this school. I would appreciate full anonymity. We live in Southport. My child attends the same school that Alice went to and was in the same year as her, same age. Bibi also attended this school for a few years, and a lot of other children who were hurt also go to this school. We have been deeply, deeply affected. Now, this is obvious because of everything that's happened. The way the people in the neighborhood, the families of victims, everybody else were told to shut up, don't talk about anything. Now they're speaking out, but what's happening now is the problem. Going back to the letter. Since the incident, the school has been pushing certain ideologies and views onto our children. For the record, we are talking about a primary school for very, very young kids. Not even secondary school, not college level, university. No. This is very, very young kids. My child has suddenly started to learn about Islam and Muslims in RE, religious obviously studies and all this. Now, you might say, part of education, if you're going to talk about religions, you have to talk about all religions and everything else. True. For those who are familiar with the education system in the United Kingdom, you know, firstly, there's a point in the education level where you actually start talking about this. But the reason that you should teach is just the basics and the truth. They don't teach you the truth. It gets worse. It's not just about the fact that they suddenly start teaching Islam to the primary school kids. Year 5 have been given homework about refugees. Homework about refugees. They're starting young. They're starting them with them when they're young. He says, stating how they are all innocent, mostly children, who are escaping bombs, and they get to the UK by small boats. You do realize this is a problem. Forget about the whole indoctrination. This is brainwashing. It's also immoral that they are pushing the narrative of the small boats. Even if you're in favor of open borders, if you're in favor of more refugees, that's your worldview, right? You're a liberal, left-wing liberal, fine. Don't push for the narrative of small boats. If you claim to care about humanity, the small boats route is not a safe route. If you care about those asylum seekers, well, illegal migrants, right? They don't care, by the way. They just want to completely destroy the West. So, yeah, going back to this, they're teaching them about the small boats, and they're all innocent. Given all we see on the news these days are how slowly adult men are arriving in the UK almost daily by small boats, illegally, and many going on to hurt our children. This is very worrying. The fact that the narrative is that all refugees are innocent and they're all kids running away from war zones, this has to be challenged. A lot of people say, well, yes, this is already happening across the board on schools, education system, universities. Yes, firstly, they've started this now in Southport primary school. That's one issue. Secondly, you still have to challenge it. I don't care if it's been going on for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Call it out. And call it out soon. Now that they've started doing it in Southport, in this primary school, stop it now. Start your campaigns, find out more information. If you live in the local area, talk to your local representatives, start a campaign. If you know people in that school, families, talk to them, see what's going on. The letter continues. We are due to have 2 separate visits from the members of the Islamic faith over the next couple of months in the school to talk to our children about their religion. The children are all aged between 4 and 11. As I said, religious studies, even though it's already biased, this level primarily happens at secondary school level, towards the final years, year 10, year 11, when you're 15, 16, and then universities, they go all the way out. Children between 4 and 11, they're going to do this now, right? Given it has now been confirmed that Axel, of course, had tendencies when it comes to the Islamic terrorism, I find this very inappropriate considering our community is still grieving. It is inappropriate. And that's the other issue. Again, we can talk about the indoctrination, brainwashing, all that, propaganda. They are grieving. Have some respect. The letter says, I am in no way saying all Muslims or Islamic people are Islamic terrorists at all. But these children were friends of girls who were murdered and hurt by the terrorists. And now we are learning about their faith, about their ideology. He says, the entire month of February, this is in addition to all the stuff that we said, in addition to that, the entire month of February is also now dedicated to learning about LGBTQ+. They will be teaching our children about LGBTQ+, the contributions that they have made, and the LGBTQ+ history. Again, children between the ages of 4 and 11, not secondary school, not 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds who are becoming slightly closer to being adults. Very, very young children. History of it and the contributions. As if people who happen to be gay are different type of creatures. This is also patronizing to normal gay people, by the way. But the contributions that these random weird creatures are making, what is this? It's patronizing, pandering at the same time. It's just odd and weird that they're doing it to 4-year-old kids. Finishes by saying, I don't believe primary school aged children should be being taught any of this. They are young children and ideologies are being pushed on them when they are only being to understand themselves. We don't stand a chance. So the interesting thing about this is we have had certain schools, a lot of schools across the country doing similar things, especially when it comes to the LGBT, everything else. In Birmingham, in Leicester, in Leeds, in some of those urban areas that is already diverse, we have had opposition, protests outside school, very vicious protests, led by the Islamic families. Because their kids in that school were being taught about sex education, right? By the way, even basic sex education, they didn't like it. For secondary school, they were still protesting anyway, because the Islamic side do it. Those schools had to surrender. They had to say, oh, of course, we will always listen to the concerns of the parents. So the mob rule mentality works for one side, but if a bunch of white English parents protest outside Southport schools, do you really think they're going to say, well, of course we have to listen to the parents? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to start calling them far right. Bigoted. There must be enough energy to do campaigns, to do talk to representatives, even though obviously the local representatives, councillors, MPs, we still have a different problem with them anyway, the class of politicians that we have. But that's the only, one main mechanism that we have. But that it doesn't stop there. It's not just about you sending an email to your MP. The campaigns must be on a grassroots level, and political parties who claim to care, they must get involved. If the Tory party claims to care, because the Tory party is now trying to be right-wing, right? Not fully. But Kemi Badenoch is like, yeah, this is a new party. Firstly, Kemi Badenoch is not going to last as party leader. Reform UK as well. I hope they do the same thing. They get involved. I'm sure they now have some sort of branch near Southport. I'm not sure, but I'm sure they do, because Reform UK, they've now hit 200,000 members. They got members everywhere across the country, becoming one of the largest parties. Brilliant. But hopefully they will use that. There are good local reform people who hopefully will be watching this and start doing something about this. More investigation, campaigns. Local press is important. People tend not to realize the power of the local media, local press. It starts from there. Even local BBC radios, you'll be surprised. It starts from one conversation, one interview. Then the MPs will have to get interviewed. Then councillors. And then it could become national news eventually. Just like how we did with grooming gangs. It took about 50 years. And many people who started this earlier, they were ignored. People like Tommy and everybody else. But eventually got to the national level. And now international level. I know it still seems kind of down and gloomy. Even, for example, with grooming gangs. Because you're like, well, we were talking about this 2 weeks ago. What happened now? It does die down a little bit. But it comes back. It does come back. The focus is there. That's just, whether you like it or not, the way the narrative works in terms of the media, international media and everything else. But the fire is there. It's building up. We have to use all the mechanisms that we have. The democratic process. And again, with parties like Reform UK who are on the rise, they have a great opportunity to do something about these kids in Southport, in the school, and other schools. But this specific school that Alice went, Bibi went, and now the other kids, who are also victims, but they're still alive, now they're being taught all this. At this age. It's not normal. I don't care how liberal or progressive you're going to be. If you're 4, I don't think it's appropriate to be... It's not, again, just about being taught about the details of the LGBTQ plus community. No. It's the fact that we know why they're doing it. They're bringing in Islamic preachers from the local mosques. Why? Why now? Why not before? I know they were already doing it across the country anyway. It's been going on for a few years. We know that. They now take school kids on trips to the Islamic centers. Right, I get it. Most of the time, it's secondary schools. Not that there's much difference, by the way, because, if you're in year 8, 7, or 8, 9, you're still close to being very young, obviously. But when they start very, very young, you have to ask questions, especially why in Southport. We know why, but still ask it. Let's see what you guys are saying, especially if you're watching from the Southport or around the areas, or any experience you have from schools. Let me know in the live chat. So I think people would like to know. Super chat from Ivan, thank you, saying, is this why the Prime Minister visited the Southport school in secret? It stinks 100% brainwashing. We did hear that apparently the Prime Minister might have had a visit in the area a couple of days ago, or whenever it was. Clipper says, my son is in year 7 and was told off in RE, the lesson, during a lesson on Islam, when he asked the teacher if Muhammad was married, and if so, how old was the wife. The teacher told him that asking silly questions like that is not helpful. What is the point of education? What is the point of schools? What is the point of discussing the history of humanity? That's part of history. The kids are curious. History is filled with imperfection from all sides, right? I'm trying to be objective here. Every history, everything that you want to talk about, whether it's the Greek civilization, the Persian Empire, Islam, post-Jesus, the primary initial Christian movement, and what happened afterwards when the establishments took control of Christianity, what they did, and then they fixed it, obviously, they fixed themselves. Everything. History is imperfect. Talk about it. When they do this, when they say, don't ask that question, they know that the whole topic is wrong. They know that the answer is problematic. Why can't they, by the way, say, yeah, that was a few centuries ago and that was normal at the time, right? That could be an argument in the Arab world, right? Thing is, that question could lead to the next question. Why is it that they still do it in 2025? That's why they don't want to answer that question. Tasman says, what are these teachers saying about the 3 girls? That they deserve to die? I think, again, this could be one of those situations like the previous comments. If you're in that school that Alice went, the school that we're talking about in this video, I think if one of the kids asks about what happened, I think the teacher will say the same thing. Silly question. It's not helpful. It's not a helpful question. In fact, if they really cared about the community in Southport and the kids, they've gone through trauma, by the way. They would have dedicated days, weeks, and months in school to go through what happened. Almost therapeutical, like a therapy. Make sure the well-being of kids is taken care of. Pay massive tributes. They've done their gimmicky tributes. Oh yeah, the school sent out press releases. Oh yeah, of course we're mourning. Blah blah blah. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families. But if the government cared, they should have dedicated, by the way, mental health services, therapists, and everything else to every single person affected. They haven't actually done that. John says, brainwashing, how much do we have to take before we as a people stand up against this evil? Do not comply, no surrender. The thing is, you can only get there by talking about this. Me reporting this, David Atherton, and others. Obviously, the mainstream media don't like me talking about this. They don't like this because it's uncomfortable. But we will, every single time, we will push them, corner them, force them to also eventually talk about it. It eventually gets to the mainstream. Most of the time they try their best to put a lid on it. Not anymore. Things have changed. Cynthia says, oh my God, early indoctrination into Islam. How is this not religious grooming? Homeschool your children. Considering in England, the country, we don't have separation of church and state, unlike America. Practically we do, and actually it's gone too far the other way around, right? In terms of the liberal secular society. Firstly, we should have a liberal secular society, free society, absolutely. But the constitution is based on Church of England. And by the way, you could have your problems with the Church of England. As an institution, their leadership, absolutely, I have a problem. But the values, the constitution, Church of England, Christianity, which means there has to be an element of the Christian culture being taught in every school, every institution, They do it in a gimmicky way in the House of Commons. Every morning, Monday morning, when they go back to Parliament, they have the morning prayer. Now, they don't really turn up to do anything. It's just gimmicky, but they're still doing it in Parliament because it's part of the Constitution. But they slowly removed it from all the other institutions. Slowly, one by one. And this happens. It's not really about forcing people to be religious. Absolutely not. It's about reminding people why we have all this. Why our civilization is different. It's all about the journey of humanity and what happened over the last few centuries. Vinny says, the worst two ideologies we have to worry about. The ones we talked about, obviously. Ivan also says, this whole thing is sick and twisted. If we go to some non-super chats while we're here as well, not to neglect those. Lunik says, sorry, my daughter will be taken out of school and will not be taking part in any of this. Not Islam or any other S about the other BS. No ways. Elle says, Anjem Chowdhury said that the UK will be a Muslim country and we are changing it with stealth from inside out, with MPs and councillors in high positions and indoctrination of Islam in school. So, yeah, I mean, one of the things, again, this isn't really supposed to be, what I'm about to say, it's not supposed to be divisive because the division is there. Whether you like it or not, just to be objective again, whether you like it or not, a cultural Christian country changing to Islamic cultural country, it would be a different society. Now, it could be better, it could be worse. It's about perspective. But it would be different. So those who claim to be, well, they're British, they are English, British, ethnicity-wise, and they are from the Christian culture, and now they're in charge of our NHS, of our schools, of our councils, government departments, civil service, all these people who still think that this is not a problem. That some of them are saying, no, of course, no, we're not going to be, one religion is not going to take over. Some of them are just still in denial. The others would say, well, what's wrong with it? Well, it will be a different place. The society will be a different type of society. You might like it, you might hate it, but it would be different. You're not going to have the same society as we have now if the culture changes completely. And all you need is 25% of Parliament, MPs, to change. Councils are already changing anyway. But from the bottom up, it's already started. The influence in schools and everything else. But when MPs change, they can legally and democratically change legislations and constitutions, everything else. Now, that's democracy, by the way. What are you going to do about that? So you stop it now. You try to promote. It's not really just about being anti this ideology or anti that religion. It's about being pro something. What you have. It's about promoting your Christian cultural values. It's about promoting British patriotism. It's about promoting our kingdom. It's about promoting the original identity of the people of these islands. And it's not people like me. The people who've been here for centuries. Yeah, people like me have to respect the original identity. Mark says, Maya, you are being attacked online in regards to this post, I suspect, by Islamists. Where? If you could let me know where this is happening, that would be nice. Tasman says, divide and conquer. And they are winning. AFC Man UK, thanks again for another super chat saying, parents have the legal right to remove their kids from RE lessons for now. For now. You won't do anything to stop this. Well, if you mean me, obviously, my job is to report this and obviously give my opinion. I'm doing my part anyway. But those who are in politics, they have their own job. They have to do something. Well, if they care. And obviously, the normal civilians of this country as well. Do we have a response from the person who mentioned the online discussions about this video? I'll wait a couple of minutes. There's 30-second delay, by the way, with me talking and you guys actually seeing what I'm saying. David says, Anjum Chowdhury is spot on. This is exactly what is happening up and down the country. It's just that it will take a few decades. Well, sooner than that, but... Where's the... I think it was Mark. Was it Mark? Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with that comment about... I'm guessing it's on X, probably. Vicky says, if they introduce Islam into my girls' school, that will be when I take them out and start to homeschool. There is with all this mess going on, there's a nice comment from Dave. Congratulations on your engagement. Thank you very much. Pleased to announce as a candidate that I signed up to the pledge. Not that it will help with the West Suffolk people, as they cancelled the elections. Oh, of course. Yeah, the West Suffolk is part of one of the councils that will not have an election. I think they said it's about 5 million. 5 million people will not be able to vote in 2025 in this kingdom. And I love how it's just casual. Everyone was like, okay, it's happening now. Or not happening, basically. Mark Fish says, Islam is opposed and hostile to Christian moral and cultural traditions. Yeah, from the 7th century, yeah. That hasn't really changed. That's, there was a comment here. Duncan says, isn't this all contradictory? Teaching Islam and the LGBTQ together doesn't really work, as the LGBT community would be the first to get dealt with if the cult of Islam ever gets major foothold. So eventually they will end up eating themselves, and that's the problem. Right now, they're being welcomed by the liberal leftists. And how many times the more conservative-leaning people, and not just in the UK, but in Ireland, in the US, in Canada, other places, have been trying to point out the flaw in their arguments. Like, for example, gays for Palestine, queers for Palestine, whatever, gays for Gaza. We've already pointed that. They know. That the liberals know. But because we are saying it, because the conservative-leaning people are saying it, they become contrarian. They don't like it. They're gonna continue to do it. Which is essentially self-harm, by the way. The gay for Gaza narrative. Which is basically what Duncan is talking about here in terms of the schools. It's fascinating. Wrong, but fascinating. It's crazy stuff. Yeah. T-Bay in the live chat says chickens for KFC. Absolutely. Vicky Payne says, I said no to my 9-year-old daughter going to a mosque. I got a call from the school trying to say it was not an option. She still did not go. Got F'd, I told them. Get F'd, I told them. Yeah. I love how they're like, it's not optional. What do you mean it's not optional? It's up to the parent. It's just weird. Adam says, remember, you can't upset those peaceful people, no matter what they do. It's very peaceful, obviously. It is all about peace and submission. Somehow, not that peaceful. AFC Man UK says, quick shout out to Danielle for joining the Dream Team. Yes, she will be helping massively. Also, as an in-house legal counsel, it will help in case we get into trouble again. And Clipper says, if you want to change this, then get out and vote and tell people you know who don't vote that they can shut up about how much they hate what's going on unless they vote. That's a good summary. Absolutely agree with Clipper. Kevin says that we were told years ago that streets would run with blood. Enoch. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a quick break because There's some worrying updates coming from Dublin, the capital of the Republic of Ireland. And of course, we're going to give you guys all that information shortly after this. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.